Okay, hello everyone. I will shortly introduce myself quickly, though you maybe already know me, but a few words also for those who are watching this in the recording. My name is Ina Gendelmann. You can call me Ina, and I'm the group DPO in my full-time. In my full-time job, I'm the group DPO of a German tech company who just entered the DAX. So I'm one of the 40 and in Germany. And on the side, I'm also a mentor for data protection leaders, giving webinars to best practices on a regular level and also doing one-on-one mentoring for those who feel inspired and have challenges I address. And I'm teaching and mentoring from 10 years in data protection because before I was internal DPO. I have been an external consultant. I was external DPO for companies, different sizes from startups to groups in Germany, Europe, and worldwide. And so 10 years is a full package. And I'm trying in my webinars and in my one-on-one coaching, I'm focusing on what I would call secret knowledge. It's like soft skills of the DPO. As soon as you are internal, you understand that what is often counting is not only your expert knowledge and not only the fancy GDPR tool, but also people management, empowering of people, being a leader, having a leader mindset, and also bringing certain soft skills to the table, like to know what I'm responsible for and what I'm not responsible for, like to keep boundaries, also to be visible, and also the strategic thinking, and also to place yourself right, and yeah, and basically to know who you are and what you're allowed to do as a DPO. So it comes a bit from an empowering point of view, but everything I give is very practical. It's very practical. I give live demos you can take over right away for your work, but you will see that between the lines, everything is about the correct positioning of the DPO or privacy managers or whoever is doing the privacy work. It's about the right attitude and the right confidence of placing yourself and being proactive. So this is stands behind of what I'm doing. And today you are here for my bonus webinar. It's called Getting Executives on Board, getting the leadership of the company on board. And bonus webinar, why bonus? Bonus to what? I created a webinar series. It contains of 3 parts, and it's called Empowering the People Behind DPMS, behind the Data Protection Management System, Knowledge Transfer as Key to a Functioning DPMS. So in this webinar series, you can check it on my website on gendelman.de, and you will find there basic things which every DPO, internal and external, needs to do of creating a DPC network, Data Protection Coordinators network. You will find there why it's necessary, why there's no other way than working with DPCs. You will find you need a second level, the data protection managers, who are the supervisors of the DPCs, and so that the DPO can do the things he is there for, being strategic, prioritize risk management, consultancy. So it's about building the DPC network and also leading it, like especially how do I lead a group of people for which I'm not formally the boss. So, and I propose it to do it by founding a data protection academy within the company. So this is the second part of my webinar series. By founding a data protection academy internally. So in part 2 of my series, I give a lot of content how such an academy can look like, what should you teach, what models should you teach, and also targeted teaching, and especially how do you become an entrepreneur within a company, like how do you even start from an idea and come to the end. And the third part of my series targets the topic of creating a motivational culture through communication, through events, through benefits, and also gives you a lot of ideas how you can motivate this group of data protection coordinators to do the data protection work. They're not officially therefore in the company, but doing it on the side. And how do you give them a good feeling about doing it? So it's a lot about showing gratitude, appreciation, and also teaching their supervisors how they can appreciate their DPCs. And if you are interested in my webinar series, as I said, you can purchase it on the website, and there you get all the information. And I repeat it again, for those who are attending my webinars, and this is for you, I have a promo code, and you would get also 30% off the price if you want to purchase it. So, and this is the bonus webinar for today. In addition to my webinar series, it's for free. Also, the recording and the presentation after you can have for free. It's about the question, how do I activate my executives? By executives here in the title, I mean the supervisors of my data protection coordinators. From my webinar series, you already know who has attended that we have this DPC group. And then I said we have to activate another group, the data protection managers. I call them DPMs. And we have to get them into the system. They have to be part of it. And this webinar is about exactly this topic. How do I do that? And that is very important to do it and to involve the data protection managers properly, because data protection system functions best top down. CO has to have awareness and a good understanding of the importance of data protection. Then the management level has a good understanding of data protection and awareness. And this is the condition that my DPCs, who are taking over the tasks in DPMS, have also an understanding and motivation in fulfilling their tasks. So for today, the agenda, we will clarify why executives, the DPMs, play a key role in data protection, and how can I give them instruments that they're able to empower and value data protection coordinators, and how do I actually do it by a single meeting that can make the difference. And in the end, I will show you a live demo for this kind of workshop for DPMs. You could directly copy paste and put in your company name, maybe adjust a bit, but you would have like real work material for your purposes. So let's start. So why what problem do I want to solve here? Very often, and this is my experience from 10 years, almost in every company, there is maybe a group of data protection coordinators, but there's always a lack of involvement of the management. And this is, to my opinion, often an overseen big problem. And if you solve it, you have a complete change of culture, motivation, and in the result, the quality of fulfillment of the necessary tasks. Why is it so? Like we have DPCs and many of them work with motivation, or at least start working with motivation, but without sufficient recognition from their management, at some point they stop or they don't feel motivated. Why is it so? Because it's a normal human desire to want to be seen by your direct supervisor. Normally, the DPC doesn't want to be seen by me as DPO, which is also great. I can also express gratitude and smile and say, well done, and I'm proud of you. You accomplished it. I can do it, and I can create this kind of framework and space and give this energy to this group of people. But it's very natural that the main person I want to be seen by is my supervisor, who is the person who evaluates my performance and who I feel motivated naturally if he or she likes the things I'm doing. So we have to make the DPCs visible for their supervisors. And then, and this is often what I see, that the management, they're not quite aware what the DPCs are doing. They're not also quite aware what the DPO is doing. Only if they hear GDPR, DPO, GDPR, DPO. This is the connection they make, and this is enough. So data protection is often seen as an isolated task of the DPO from the view of the lead management. And then if this is the case, data protection remains frustrating because also as a DPO you don't feel seen, and also the DPCs don't feel seen, and they don't get enough resources because nobody really knows what they're doing. So you come into a situation where you're a bit stuck. But if we change that, then we solve the situation of lack of time for the GDPR tasks and the lack of support. And what we want to achieve, that data protection doesn't stay a reactive program, that only people move if something bad happens, but it becomes a proactive field where you can build as a DPO, where you have supporters, real supporters who create documentation which is needed, who report to you. Then you have your supporters, DPCs, and you have the mental supporters and the DPMs. So this is the problem we want to solve. And how do we solve it? It's not so complicated. The solution I propose is a meeting that changes everything. And this meeting could have the title, Why Data Protection is Our Business, and emphasizing the hour, that it's understood that data protection is the business of the business, not so much the business of the DPO, but more the business of all employees, especially of the lead management, especially of the executives and of every team. And what could be the key elements of such a workshop? And you will get a demo in the end. So welcome and introduction to show who you are, who is the team, why data protection is your business, and to show why data protection is not only the responsibility of the DPO. Then you also have a chapter for why do I need internal resources? Because we need collaboration. And you show the DPMS projects, that it can be seen what has to be done according to GDPR. And then at last, you give concrete tasks to the DPMs and you tell them what you concretely need of them: time, resources, communication, whatever. And very important, you make a hybrid meeting, you record this workshop, and then you can always you can send it to every new DPM or to those who couldn't attend the workshop, and you can repeat it live once in a year, but the rest of the year, because human contact is very important here, but through the year you can provide it with the recording. So if you decided to make this kind of workshop, you have to prepare it. And how do you prepare it? So I have here 3 steps for you. Before you start with this workshop, and this is basically your first step of the whole data protection program I proposed to you in my webinar series of creating this Data Protection Academy. So in the beginning, you have to involve the top management, like whether it's your direct supervisor as a DPO or data protection department or the CEO of the company. You have to tell him or her about the program, what you're about to do, that you want to involve the team leaders of the company. So a manager with a higher rank than the DPO has to be involved, and you have to convince them as partners in this program so they can give weight to the issue. Yeah, and also maybe help you and coordinate you in the process and maybe also give you valuable recommendations. Second step, if you have the agreement of the top management, you can review HR processes. Very recommendable to involve someone of HR into this workshop of involvement leadership, because it's actually by nature a bit an HR topic of communicating to the lead management, to the DPMs, how they can motivate their DPCs. And how do we ensure that we have a proper change management process if a DPC changes, because it will be the task of the DPM to announce a DPC and also to ensure that his team always has a DPC. And if there is an absence of a DPC, we need the DPM to be aware of it and also to communicate. So we have to create processes. And we can ask in HR if maybe we can also put this process in HR, because they're always aware of someone's not someone is leaving the employer, or someone is on sick leave for a longer time, or someone is getting a baby and is away. So it makes sense to involve HR. And also, I would also recommend to invite even a representative of HR to give maybe a short keynote on employee appraisals, recognition, and appreciative communication, and why it's important for the DPCs. Of course, you can do it by yourself as a DPO, especially if you feel called to do so, and if you feel you have experience and knowledge and personal development. So I feel confident in it because it's also one of my topics in general. But But it makes also sense to have another expert, which the management will also perceive more as an expert, because data protection is associated with data protection and with law, and not so much with soft skills, personal development. So if an HR person comes and tells them how to communicate and why it's important, it can have more weight. And then regarding logistics and communication, you also have to make your mind, like in preparation of this workshop. And I would start like 2 months before. I would also start with the preparation. You have to decide how you do it, online, offline. I recommend a hybrid format to also ensure the recording, as I said. And you should also notify the DPCs, if you already have some, that you're gonna do this workshop, because it's also very valuable for them to know that now their supervisors are in the boat. And then you have probably to identify other stakeholders. Maybe there would be a need for it, such from IT or compliance, which would find it also valuable that we have this kind of workshop. And you should set the date early, because, and also think of the perfect date, not maybe to do it on the holidays of like if on the holidays for school children, but to do it maybe on a date where you can grasp the whole crowd. And also prior, because calendars of leadership are always full, so you should think ahead. And And definitely, before you have this workshop, you should have a general plan. You should be able to present something, why you need it, why you will be doing, what is your program, so that you have kind of an outlook and something specific you can mention. They can be part of this of this creation of data protection management system. And now I will show you how does such a workshop look like live, and you can directly take it over, and it's meant to give you some inspiration. And I will just explain you a bit here why this slide is important and why some words are important to say. But it's basically for you to just be able to take over. So the title would be, you can find a catchy title, but if you can't find a catchy title, I like this one, Why Data Protection is Our Business. And maybe not only the DPOs, so you could enhance it. And you introduce yourself. And I find it very important also, if you have the feeling I'm the DPO and everybody knows me anyway, you never know. Oftentimes it's good to really introduce yourself as much as you can, because you also don't want the people to forget you. Also explain you're the DPO, how long are you in the company, what are you doing, what have you done before, maybe also to tell something personal about you, so that people get kind of an emotional also connection to you, because this is also very important from a visibility point of view, because you want to be visible. The more visible you are, the more people want to talk to you, because they also sympathize with you, the better, also from a strategic point of view, not only from a mood point of view, but also from a strategic point of view, because then more topics will come to you and you don't have to run after the topics. And it also makes sense to introduce the whole data protection department, like who's your supervisor, with whom are you compromising or discussing the GDPR strategy, and who are the colleagues who are helping you, who are the colleagues who are taking over when you are on vacation, who are your working students. So I would introduce the whole team. And then you give a small introduction in the workshop, and you tell just a few facts, and you don't really explain yourself. You can start with data protection and the implementation of data protection obligations in the group, in the company, and in all subsidiaries as controllers requires a high level of organizational priority. You just don't have to explain, you don't have to tell there's big fines, you can do it. But you're not always have to create atmosphere of anxiety, but you can be confident enough to tell GDPR is important because I'm telling you. It's also a reason. And the role of managers in establishing a sustainable data protection culture is also very important. You show you need them. Without you, it doesn't function. And you also clarify between the lines your role. We are happy to support you. Compliance and data protection is your responsibility primarily. Is the team's responsibility. You create here a mindset, if it didn't happen yet, you create here a mindset shift through your confidence, and this is so the business has to have an interest in fulfilling the GDPR tasks, not the DPO. The DPO is happy to serve, happy to consult, happy to be there, happy to redirect, happy to revise. Yeah, it's not, you feel it's a different attitude. And just to show and emphasize where the responsibility is. So you have to give a small introduction, and then you explain a bit why this is so. And again, you don't explain the high fines, but you give some general conditions. And I just listed some conditions which are mostly the case, but for your company, it can be something different. So you maybe need to adjust, but I think most companies will recognize themselves here. So you list the conditions. We have only one DPO and 2, 3 employees in the central data protection team. Why you say it? Because usually it will be a small number of staff hired officially for data protection. Then you say, but the company or our group with 20 subsidiaries with 1,000, 10,000 employees and 50 departments is kind of that shows that cannot be covered only by one DPO and one by plus 5 people. So there has to be like kind of a misbalance. So you show it. And you tell them we have 10 data protection coordinators, or 5, or 30, or 50, I don't know. But in the end, to show that ideally we need one for every department. This is something I explain in my webinar series, how you can explain that you need one for every department. And you tell that DPMS tasks, in particular, the documentation requirements, they require a close cooperation between DPO and the departments, and you show here it is impossible to do it alone. And the specialist knowledge, which I'm the carrier of as the DPO or Central Data Protection Department, and this must be combined with the operational business. So it comes together. Then you tell, to my experience, normally the motivation of the DPC is low, due to the additional work and the lack of appreciation. But if there is appreciation, the motivation is high. So this is the first call to action for the managers. Here they will already feel, okay, there is maybe some task for them. And you also communicate that the budget and external specialists and tools, and this is also mostly the case, they're limited. And this is why we need internal resources. So this is your introduction. Then you have to give them a small overview. You don't have to explain a lot and name the articles from the GDPR, but in a general overview, you should lose 2 or 3 sentences to every DPMS project that they see. It's written in black and white in the GDPR what we have to do. We have to have a proper data protection organization, DPCs, DPMs, CO who is involved, maybe more hands, specialized knowledge in specific departments. So we have to have a governance. We have to have awareness trainings. We have to document our processes in the records of processing activities. What is it? What does it mean? What kind of document is that? Then we have for complex processings, we have to create a DPIA. What is this? What would I need it for? Why a DPC is the helping hand here? For intercompany transfers, we need to have an intercompany agreement, and we have to have an overview for every transfer between subsidiaries. We have to know where we exchange data and for which purpose. We have to fulfill information obligation to data subjects on every meeting point with the data subject, online, offline, in calls, whatever. Then we have the data subject rights. We have to have processes to fulfill this. Privacy by design. We have to involve the DPO in early stage of a product or of a process. Deletion concepts. Every data bank has to have a deletion concept, and this has to be also implemented. We have to have processes for reporting data protection incidents. We have to have a documentation of technical organizational measures for every data bank, probably. So, in short, you give them to understand that it's a lot. And by explaining, also everyone by now will understand that can't do one person alone, or it will cost the person a lot of resources. So it's not possible. That's why you need the DPCs and also the understanding of their supervisors that the DPCs will need resource, time, and also capacity, also intellectual capacity for fulfilling those tasks. And then you give a small overview, also important to tell the managers what is the tasks of the DPCs, what will they have to do in all this. So the main tasks here are supporting the company in ensuring GDPR compliance and setting up DPMS, obtaining information from the business, delivering information to the DPO or Central Data Protection Department. The DPCs are the department-specific contact persons for more simple data protection inquiries and routine matters. There are also role models and ambassadors for data protection. Um, they are closer to the rest of the employees and can also influence the consciousness of the rest of the employees in regard of the data protection. That's why they also can do selective awareness raising measures. I can enable them to do it. And they have to update and maintain everything we built. It has to be kept actual. So they will be responsible for the main data protection or documentation. And this is a very important slide. You should make your mind before how much time do you actually need of the DPCs, because the management level, they always want numbers and you should try to deliver them to them. And you can't tell anything concrete, this is clear, but you can build blocks where you can estimate, like, what do you need from the DPCs there. And the blocks are the DPC training. So you tell them we will have one basic training and it takes 8 hours or 2 days. Then you have additional trainings for specific DPMS projects. Then you say, okay, it's 12 trainings for every project, and it's half an hour or 40 minutes. Then you also say you can also tell every training I will record, and it's flexible also for the DPCs when to watch it, and they can use also their more freer time to commit to data protection. Then you have another block. This is DPC requests. This is something which can't be foreseen, but you can tell that you have occasional tasks, and it's depending on individual questions. There are sometimes departments which are more closer to personal data, maybe in product, customer care, and HR. Those DPCs you probably will need a bit more, and it can take the DPC up to 1 or 2 hours per request. And requests I have once in a month, once in 3 months, never. So you give them a small feeling for what do you need here. And then, of course, the big part, if you didn't do so yet, you need the DPCs for setting up the DPMS. That means the creation of the documentation, creation of certain processes. And here it always depends on the project, but you can tell them before we start any project, before we start to create ROPA, I will give an estimation how much time do we need for creation of ROPA. And this will be like maybe 2 weeks, but then it's done and it's fine. Then maybe I have awareness training a program, and I want the DPCs to make specific trainings for their teams. So you say, okay, I will enable them. I will create for them the material, and they just need like 15 minutes in front of their team and maybe to prepare before. So you try to give a feeling. And then your fourth building block is the follow-up and maintenance. You tell once we build the DPMS, actually this is done. In the first year, there's a lot to do, but then there is only the updating and maintenance tasks. And for this, you will have probably once in a year, you gather the group and ask them to review their ROPA and see if it's still up to date. So you should try to be as specific as you can for this slide. and also communicate that all projects are carried out with the consultation with the DPCs, and you take into account the personal situation, and it will be like kind of also a joint learning by doing and a work in progress. So it's never a 100% obligation. You show yourself as very flexible, as you can adjust to the rhythm of the work of the DPCs. And then you come to the concrete part where you communicate the specific tasks for managers. So, because you want something of them also in this workshop. And what should the managers actually do? Because before you created understanding for the situation, now you really ask for something. And this is four tasks actually for the DPMs. It's not so much what you want. DPMs should announce a DPC for their team, and we want to ensure that every team or department is covered by one DPC. And they are entered in our DPC list, which I showed to you is very important for you as a DPO because this is your team in the end. So they should also have the list in mind and keep it up to date, or give you the information you need to keep the DPC list up to date. Then they should take over the responsibility for the communication with the DPCs. The DPC should hear for the first time of their supervisor of the DPM that he is becoming DPC, what it means, and also why he was chosen for this. So all this communication of appointment should be within the DPM. Then also DPM is responsible for updates as a part of change management. So always if an employee leaves or can't be there more than 2 months in the company, we need someone else who will take over the job. So here also the DPM is responsible. And one of the very important parts also on a soft skill basis, to give to the DPC recognition and appreciation of the DPC's work, because we want that the DPC feels appreciated, seen, and motivated. And this is something only, or not only, but mainly his supervisor can do. And here we want also to give the DPMs a bit instruction how the DPM can express his gratitude, his appreciation towards the DPCs. And this is what I said could be the part of the HR person, because the HR person is usually the expert here. And what could the DPM do? He or she could communicate the benefits of the job. What is the benefit? DPC training is a comprehensive training. It's an educational program. The data protection coordinator is a profession. In some companies, there is such a job description full-time for data protection coordinator. So they get a full quality education from an experienced data protection person. Yeah. DPO, mostly lawyer with a lot of experience. The DPCs gather increased impact and visibility within the company. Also nice to have. And they get also to network with other departments and DPCs from other teams. So they expand their field. Then the DPMs should avoid additional workload for DPCs during the time of intense GDPR projects. They should create freedom to perform DPC activities and also maybe reduce responsibility accordingly if a DPC is needed for a certain project. And what could be other appreciation activities? The nomination process could be created very appreciative. It's also a question how you communicate it. Like, you have to do it, or this is a chance. And I would love you to do it because you're smart, you know the department, you're multitasking, you're very engaged. You could spotlight it, the DPM can spotlight it in weekly meetings, yeah, with the whole team and say, okay, what's on the on the GDPR part? Tell us what you're doing here, like that it's not forgotten, that there is someone who's doing this extra job. Then it should be also an integral part of one-on-one conversations, like also performance ratings. And if there's something as like learning time in the company, some companies grant learning time. Also, the DPM could propose it that the learning time can be used for it. And this is just ideas, inspiration for you, and really recommendable to do this with the HR person because they maybe have much more ideas how something like this could be placed properly. And this is basically it. After this, you should have your DPMs in the boat, and yeah, and I wish you luck in it if you're gonna try. And I will stop the recording now, and we can get over to a small feedback round.